All right, let's run through another Mtel question. This one says, which of the following graphs shows the solution to the system of inequalities for these two equations here? And then we've got a list of graphs here that could represent these inequalities. So these equations are kind of tough to read because they're not in a format that I really recognize. So it'd be easier if these were in slope-intercept form. If we solve for y in each one of these equations, then we'll be able to tell the slope and the y-intercept of each one of these lines. So let's start there. So if I distribute this negative 2 in the first equation, I get negative 2x plus 6 is less than y plus 7. And then all I want to do is solve for y, so I just have to move that 7 over, which gives me negative 2x minus 1 is less than y. So we've got that equation in y equals mx plus b, where negative 2 is our m and negative 1 is our b. Then if we grab our next equation, for solving for y, we're going to want to move that 3x over. So when we subtract the 3x over, we get negative y is greater than or equal to negative 3x plus 12. And then we're going to want to divide by negative 4. And when you're doing these types of equations, when you're doing inequalities, and you divide by a negative number, you have to switch the direction of the greater than or equal to sign. Pretty tricky little rule. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you're going to have to switch the direction of the greater than or equal to sign. So this greater than sign is going to have to switch and become a less than sign. So after I divide by negative 4, I'm going to have to make this y is less than or equal to positive 3/4 x minus 3, where positive 3/4 is our slope and negative 3 is our y-intercept. Okay, so all 4 of these answers have the same lines graphed. One of the major differences is that it has a dotted line and a solid line in different spots. So A and B have like the steeper line that's going up and to the left as a dotted line, and C and D have the steeper line that's going up and to the left as a solid line. So a line that goes up and to the left, we know it has a negative slope. Up and to the left means negative slope, up and to the right means positive slope. That's something good to remember. And a dotted line means that that line does not include the values on the line itself. So when you have an equal sign in your greater than or equal to type of symbol, your inequality symbol, that means it's going to be a solid line. If there's an equal sign, it's a solid line. If it's not if there's no equal sign, if it's just greater than or less than, then it's going to be a dotted line. So basically, if our dotted line was the up and to the left one, that means it should have a negative slope and not be equal to. So, and that's exactly what we're looking for. This equation has a negative slope, so it's negative 2x, and it has a less than sign without an equal sign. So A and B are going to be the correct types of lines, so we can eliminate C and D from contention here. So now it's just a matter of figuring out which one is shaded correctly, because that's the only difference between these two. Well, typically, if you solve for y, if it's y is less than whatever the equation is, that means it's going to be below the line, and if it's y is greater than, it's going to be above. So in our first equation, we have y is greater than the rest of the equation, so I would expect that to be above that line. And in our second equation, we have y is less than, so I would expect that to be below that line. And so in the first equation, it should be above the dotted line. A looks like it's below both lines, honestly. So let's take a look at B. If you look at B and we look at the dotted line, the shaded area is above it, right? Like the y values are above, in the shaded area are above the dotted line. If we had to point in an upward direction above this dotted line, it would be here. So we can see that the shaded area is above this one and it's below the solid line, and the solid line is y is less than or equal to 3/4 x minus 3. So B looks like a good answer. Let's just check a point to make sure that that's the right answer. If we plug a point from the shaded area into each equation, it should work. So let's just grab, I'm seeing that 2 comma negative 2 is a possible point. If we plug 2 negative 2 into this equation here, then we'll get negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4, minus 1, which is negative 5, is less than negative 2. Negative 5 is less than negative 2, so that's true. And then if we plug 2 comma negative 2 into this equation, we'll get negative 2 for y is less than 3/4 times positive 2 minus 3. So 2 times 3/4 is 6/4 or 1.5. Minus 3 is negative 1.5. Negative 2 is in fact lower than negative 1.5. So the 0.22 works for both. It's in the shaded area. B looks like our answer. So the answer is B.